Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning, Security Insights, Hardening Your Digital Defenses with CIS Benchmarks and XTIVIA's Virtual DBA. My name is Alex Killian. I'm the video producer here on XTIVIA's marketing team, and today you'll be hearing from some of our data security experts. To tell you just a bit about our company before we dive in, for more than 3 decades, we've been providing a variety of expert IT services to hundreds of businesses in countless industries. At XTIVIA, we like to say, if you can imagine the business outcome, XTIVIA can create it with technology. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Kat.
All right, thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. And as you said, today's webinar is the Security Insights for Hardening Your Digital Defenses using the CIS Benchmarks and XTIVIA Virtual DBA. We're thrilled to have you guys join us today as we dive into a topic that's increasingly critical for every organization operating in the digital world. This is just a first of many webinars that we're going to be presenting on securing your systems.
Hello, everyone. My name is John, and I'm an IT Systems Manager, Senior System here at XTIVIA. I've worked in the IT industry for 35 years in education, government, and medical industries, to name a few. Security has always been the main factor in keeping things secure and running. I have faced many challenges, issues with the unknown over the years. Having a process in place that can check all vulnerabilities that might come up and is a very valuable tool. Knowing where the leaks are is the first step in making the company a safe place. I'm joined by my colleagues, Kat, who is a SQL Server lead, and delivery manager, Dean, who's our cloud engineer.
It's great to be here. We're excited to share some technical insights today on proactive security. Being a security-focused sysadmin for much of my career, it's unfortunate to see how small, seemingly insignificant vulnerabilities or misconfigurations can get exploited to create disastrous situations. I also know that for certain small to mid-sized organizations, an in-house security engineer or even constant checks into your security posture is not always an option. So I'm excited to speak with you all today about the CIS benchmarks and the value that these tools can provide to any company seeking a comprehensive look into where and how they can harden their environment.
Thanks, everyone. As John said, I'm Kat Long. A little bit about me. I've been a SQL Server DBA for over 25 years. I've dedicated a significant portion of my career to the critical task of maintaining and protecting the invaluable data stores within a database. My journey has taken me through a remarkable, diverse landscape of industries. I've worked with everything from small mom and pop shops, helping them safeguard their local customer information, to e-commerce platforms, handling a large amount of daily transactions. My experience also spans into local and federal government, where the data integrity and security are paramount for the public trust, and the sensitive realm of healthcare, where the patient privacy is not just a regulation, but a moral imperative. Across these variety of environments, one universal truth is consistently standing out. Securing your data is not just a recommendation, it's an absolute must. It doesn't matter if you're a startup or a multinational corporation, the threats are real and the consequences of a breach can be devastating. My background has equipped me with the insights and skills to navigate these challenges, ensuring that your data remains safe, secure, and accessible. But enough about me. In today's session, we really want to address a universal and escalating challenge: maintaining robust security for your IT critical assets. Whether it's your mission-critical databases, your expanding cloud platforms, or your foundational operating systems, securing them efficiently and effectively is significant and an ongoing challenge. Many organizations, unfortunately, are still relying on the default configurations, a more ad hoc approach, or an outdated practice. And unfortunately, this leaves them wide open to costly breaches, operational disruptions, and severe compliance failures. Okay. Think about the velocity of change. Every day, new sophisticated threats are emerging. Attackers are constantly scanning for the weakest link, exploiting known vulnerabilities, and leveraging zero-day exploits. A misconfigured server, a database with unnecessarily open network ports, or an operating system still using the default administrative credentials. These are just not theoretical risks, they are prime entry points. If you add the complexity of the modern IT environment with the hybrid and multi-cloud architectures, the diverse application stack, and the distributed remote workforces, it only amplifies your challenge exponentially. It's incredibly difficult to navigate the digital landscape without accurate and current information about your systems.
Absolutely, Kat. And the reactive approach trying to stay up with each new vulnerability is simply unsustainable. This is where the established framework and prescriptive guidelines become not just invaluable, but essential. It's not merely about reacting to an attack. It's about proactively building strong, resilient defensive postures from the ground up. This brings us to the core of our discussion today, the Center for Internet Security, or CIS Benchmark. So what exactly is CIS benchmarks? In essence, they are globally recognized, consensus-based security configuration guidelines for 100 technology products across various vendors and versions. Think of them as a highly detailed, prescriptive blueprint for hardening virtually any system against a vast array of cyber attacks. They provide very actionable recommendations developed and continuously updated by a global community of cybersecurity experts on precisely how to configure your IT assets to minimize their attack surfaces and to mitigate common vulnerabilities that you might have. They also offer 2 distinct configuration profiles, level 1 for essentially search security with minimal impact, or level 2 for enhanced security with high-risk environments.
Exactly, and these are far from a generic checklist. For instance, a CIS benchmark for Windows Server, for example, would specify detailed configurations for group policy objects to enforce granular password complexity and expiration policies as well, or even how to specifically disable legacy and insecure protocols such as server message block v1 to significantly reduce the attack surface and prevent common lateral movement techniques seen today. For a database, it could recommend disabling certain default high privilege accounts, ensuring robust encryption for data at rest, using TDE or transparent data encryption, or native database encryption as well, and enforcing network listener configurations to only accept connections from authorized subnets. These are just a few examples of precise, technical, and actionable steps that are all designed to reduce risk.
The power lies in their precision and the consensus-driven nature of their development. They are constantly reviewed and updated, reflecting the latest threat intelligence and best practices from a diverse community of experts. Delivering the core technical detail of all this. So we'll get into a technical specific of what these benchmarks actually review. CIS benchmarks cover a vast array of technologies and layers for the IT stack. For today, we'll focus on 3 particular critical areas for most enterprises: database, cloud platforms, and operating systems. What do CIS benchmarks actually review? For databases, the benchmarks delve deeply into the area like robust access for control mechanisms, ensuring strict adherence to principles of least privilege for all users and service accounts. They mandate strong password policies, limiting remote access strictly to necessity, and crucially verifying that all default unneeded or guest accounts are disabled and completely removed. They also extensively address data encryption, both at rest or in transit. TLS 1.2, for example, for the transit, and 1.3. Furthermore, they demand robust auditing configurations to meticulously track all critical database activity, including DDL, DML, and access attempts. Logging to secure immutable locations like SIEM.
For example, a CIS benchmark for SQL Server might recommend auditing successful and failed logins, object access, and permission changes by configuring SQL Server audit specifications to log to the security log or a file system location with restricted access. It would also mandate ensuring that the SA default login is either disabled or renamed, and its password is changed to a complex non-default value, and that the XP command shell and other extended stored procedures are disabled unless absolutely needed. For Oracle, it could specify enforcing strong profile parameters for password complexity, lockout, and reuse, and ensuring that listeners are configured to only accept connections via SSL or TLS. Also, that unnecessary services like XMLDB or Spatial are disabled if not explicitly used. All of this reduces potential attack vectors. So moving to cloud platforms, here the focus shifts to securing underlying cloud control plane and the services you consume. This is rigorous guidelines for identity access management, or IAM, meticulously setting up granular roles, fine-grained policies, and enforcing multi-factor authentication for all administrative and privileged accounts. They also address critical network configurations, such as highly restrictive NSG rules or network security group rules, preventing public IP assignments where not absolutely necessary. And finally, they emphasize robust logging and monitoring, integrating with native cloud services such as CloudTrail, Azure Monitor, or Google Cloud Logging, all to detect and alert on suspicious activity, unauthorized API calls, or configuration drift. These are just a few of the ways that this tool set can interact directly with various cloud services across all the major cloud platforms. And I'll pass it to John now to cover some more examples.
Thanks, Dan. A CIS benchmark for AWS, for instance, would strictly check if multi-factor is enforced for the root account and all IAM administrative users. It would also recommend ensuring that S3 buckets are configured to disallow public access by default and that CloudTrail is enabled for all your regions. Logging into an encrypted S3 bucket and integrated with CloudWatch for alerting. For Azure, it might mandate enforcing intra-ID conditional access policy to restrict access from unmanaged devices or specific locations, and verifying the network security groups, NSGs, are configured with explicit deny rules for unnecessary inbound traffic, especially from the internet. They also recommend enabling Microsoft Defender for cloud and relevant services and configuring Azure policy to enforce compliance. And for operating systems, whether it's Windows Server, various distributions of Linux, or Mac OS endpoints, these benchmarks guide you on how to harden the core operating system itself. This includes setting up stringent passwords, account lockout policies, managing local user counts, groups to remove, restrict, getting rid of unnecessary ones that you don't need, and configuring system services to disable all non-essential ones to reduce attack surface. They also cover a robust host-based firewall rules, Windows firewall rules, with advanced security and IP tables, ensuring automated software update processes and critically securing file system permissions to present unauthorized access to critical systems, folders, directories, and data.
So we'll take Windows Server as an example. CIS benchmark would suggest modifying group policy settings to disallow anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts or to ensure that the guest account is disabled and renamed. It would also recommend enabling BitLocker for full disk encryption and configuring the local security policy to audit login and log off events, object access, as well as process tracking. For Linux, it could involve verifying restricted file permissions on sensitive configuration files like the password file, shadow file, or SSH config file, or ensuring that SSH is configured to disallow root login directly and only permit key-based authentication that comes with strong ciphers. It would also recommend enabling and configuring security enhanced Linux or AppArmor for mandatory access control and removing unnecessary packages to minimize vulnerabilities.
So how do we practically apply these extensive guidelines that John and Dean have covered? At XTIVIA, we understand that simply having a benchmark document, it's not enough. It's about how you systematically implement, manage, and continuously monitor these configuration changes. We work with organizations to methodically review, prioritize, and apply these guidelines across most of their IT critical environments, transforming the static recommendations from the report into dynamic security improvements.
Our experienced professionals here at XTIVIA, especially our virtual DBA team, leverage a proven methodology to simplify this complex process. We don't just hand you a compliance report, we guide you through the practical hands-on steps of hardening your systems, ensuring minimal disruption to your operations. As an example, we typically start with your most critical database environments, such as your production SQL servers or Oracle instances, ensuring their configurations align with the CIS Oracle database benchmark or the SQL Server benchmark. From there, we would move to your critical cloud platforms, applying the CIS Amazon Web Services benchmarks or Azure security benchmarks. And finally, your core operating systems, whether it's Windows, Linux, or even Mac OS.
Our approach here follows a clear, formalized process to ensure changes are implemented effectively, securely, and without disruptions. It typically involves 4 key phases, which we often manage through our virtual DBA services. Identifying the requirements for this, well, first we would conduct a comprehensive assessment of your environment against the relative benchmark. This involves using automated scanning tools combined with manual expert review to precisely understand your current configuration and pinpoint exactly where your systems deviate from the benchmarks that are in place. We prioritize finding based on severity, potential alignment with your specific compliance objectives.
Okay. And then, once we have the report and stuff like that, then it's time to start looking at making the changes. And we do this in tests. So before any modification even remotely touches your live production environment, we implement the proposed changes in a dedicated test or stage environment that mirrors your production setup. This allows us and yourself to observe the exact impact of the configuration change, identify any potential dependencies, and ensure that the new configuration works as intended and it doesn't introduce any new performance degradations in your environment. We leverage the configuration management tools where appropriate, like Intune, to ensure the consistency is applied across the board.
And after the changes are made in tests, the next step would be to validate those changes, which is truly a crucial step. We rigorously validate the changes for both its intended success, meaning how it perfectly aligns with the benchmark, and equally important to identify any potential blockers or unforeseen negative impacts on your applications, services, or user experience. This validation is done in close collaboration with your application owners, your dev teams, and your QA teams, running regression tests and performance benchmarks as needed to ensure operational continuity.
Approve and modify in production. Once this change has been thoroughly tested, validated, and formally approved by all relevant stakeholders, we then proceed to make necessary modifications in your production environment, typically during a planned maintenance window or an extensive rollback plan in place. Our virtual DBA team excels at managing these high-stake changes, ensuring minimal downtime and maximum security uplift.
Okay. So up to this point, we're kind of talking theoretically. So I want to actually dive into specifics. When you first install Windows Server 2022, it's configured for general usability, and pretty much Microsoft lays it wide open, and so it's not really optimized for security. This often means that many settings are left at their default values, which may not align with all the best practices. So we ran this report against an unmodified installation of the Windows OS. As you can see from the report, that is just you see from the report generated from the CIS benchmark, our initial compliance score is, well, it's not great. We're only looking at a 22% that's highlighted here on the screen compliance rate. And this is fairly typical for a default installation, and it highlights the gaps between the out-of-the-box settings and a secure configuration for Windows OS. Many of these failures are due to settings that are easily overlooked but are extremely critical for a strong security posture. All right. So what's the output of the benchmark? So this is an example of the report that we receive after we do a scan. The report goes into the details about each component. It checks, and if it ranks as a pass or a fail. From here, we actually can deep dive into the details by clicking on the failed results to get further information. So the details included for each component will give you the following information. It gives you a description of what it's being checked, the rationale of why this is actually important and you need to consider this in your environment, the remediation to secure the configuration, and then also the physical evidence that was checked against the system to indicate whether or not it was a pass or fail. And then it also includes any of the controls that the recommendation maps to, which in turn can map to a regulatory requirement. In the example for this presentation, we decided to tackle some of the Windows firewall settings for the 2022 server. We made some targeted changes to the group policy and ran the assessment again. Our compliance score increased from a 22% to a 24%. And while a 2% jump may seem fairly small, and again, we only tackled some firewall settings, it does represent tangible security improvements by addressing the fundamental policy settings. This demonstrates the immediate impact of applying just a few security best practices in your environment.
Yeah, Kat, I also ran some assessments internally, for example, on a Windows laptop with a normal image just out of the box, basically, and just had an image put on it. I was able to open a complete assessment that I ran in an HTML or an XML format with a complete breakdown of all the vulnerabilities that we were running into. I could at that point compare this not only to the recommendation benchmarks, but also other standards given. And you're also able to implement this into your imaging process as well. So any changes that are made to it can be applied to your imaging. So the next time you build laptops for users and things like that, it's already set up from the get-go.
Just piggybacking on the images, CIS also offers Azure, AWS, and Oracle custom virtual machine images broken down by security tiers for an easy way to deploy a machine with all the baked-in settings as recommended by CIS. From there, any settings can be added or removed based on your needs, so it's not set in stone. But this is just another way we can leverage the CIS benchmarks in environments with cloud workloads.
All right, so what's the benefit of implementing these benchmarks? It extends far beyond just the technical security hardening, knowing that you had things in place in your environment to help protect you. They're a very powerful and universally accepted tool for achieving and definitively demonstrating your regulatory requirements and compliance. Standards like PCI DSS for the payment card data, SOX for the financial reporting, HIPAA for protecting the healthcare information, and GDPR for the data privacy, and even NIST for CSF are all require robust security controls and auditable configuration.
CIS benchmarks directly map to many of these requirements. By systematically implementing them, you're not just becoming more secure, you're also kind of simplifying your path to achieving and maintaining compliance. Ultimately helping to, drastically reduce your audit burdens, mitigate the inherent risk of devastating breaches and fines. It provides a common language for auditors and stakeholders, demonstrating due diligence and proactive security posture.
Just think of the peace of mind that comes with knowing your critical systems are configured to an industry-recognized, expert-vetted standard. Transforms your security posture from reactive damage control to proactive preventative defense. It's all about building a solid, resilient, and continuously secure IT foundation that can withstand a constantly evolving and increasingly sophisticated threat landscape, all while ensuring your databases perform optimally.
Okay. At XTIVIA, our unwavering goal is we want to be your trusted partner in this critical journey. We understand every environment, every organization, it's unique. It has distinct needs, it has some legacy systems, and it has operational challenges. We tailor our approach to fit your specific requirements, helping you bridge the gap between the compliance mandates and the practical implementation. We're here to help you not just identify the risks, but to proactively eliminate them, safeguarding your critical data assets and fostering a truly secure IT environment through our expert consulting services.
Yeah, our virtual DBA team in particular has a deep expertise in implementing and maintaining CIS benchmarks for various database platforms, ensuring your databases are not only performing right, but also secure to the highest industry standard. This integrated approach to performance and security is a key differentiator.
So we encourage you to take the next step. If you're ready to learn about how XTIVIA can help with your organization and how you can leverage the CIS benchmarks to enhance your security posture, please feel free to visit our website, virtual-dba.com, or you can contact us directly, 888-685-3101. We'd be happy to schedule a deeper dive, assess your specific security needs, and outline a tailored roadmap for your organization.
All right, so this is just kind of the different things, by the way, that XTIVIA can do for you. We not are just DBAs. A lot of you guys know us as a virtual DBA practice, but we do a lot of different things at XTIVIA. And the CIS benchmarks, it expands to many of the areas that you see out here. So even if you're like, okay, my databases are good and everything, if you're using some of these other technologies, please reach out to us and we can let you know whether or not we can actually do an audit in those environments.
All right, thank you all so much great information. It does look like we've gotten a few questions in here. So I will call those out and whoever wants to answer. First question we got in here. What specific types of systems and platforms does XTIVIA help secure using CIS benchmarks?
Okay. As of right now, obviously, for the virtual DBA side of it and stuff, we're very focused on the databases. So we are very interested in going in and checking, making sure that your SQL servers are actually secured correctly, depending on the level of security that you need. Your Oracle, your MySQL, your Postgres, your MariaDB. We can even do a manual check against even an IBM DB2 environment. So we also, after the databases, I'm sure Dean, can maybe speak to this a little bit more. I'm not sure, but I mean, your cloud environment. So the cloud is very popular. It's very open. We can secure AWS environments, Azure environments, even Google Cloud, making sure things are locked down. I can't tell you as a DBA how many times I've seen like Azure SQL database that's been exposed to the world and it hasn't been limited to only having direct access from a resource inside of the cloud. And then we can also, your operating system. So operating system is it's kind of your base location and everything like that, where a lot of the security risks actually reside. So we can definitely do your Windows, your Macs, and your Linux.
And if I could speak on that a little bit, one of the, like I said, over the years, one of the main focuses is having secure systems right out of the box. There's so many vulnerabilities that are open. Being able to run this against operating systems, especially Linux, which can kind of take on their own mind sometime, was just a really great help to us to be able to plug these security holes for our audits and things like that. Server software, ports being open, just everything like that was really wonderful to be able to match this against a benchmark that says this thing's secure, this thing will pass audits, this thing will, give you a good peace of mind. So
Awesome. All right. Next question we got in here. Once we get started, how long from review to implementation?
All right. So that really depends on everybody's environment. Because again, as I said, everybody's unique. Everybody has a different thing that they want to solve. So, I mean, if you're just talking about a single SQL server, then basically going in and doing the evaluation, depending on what it flags as issues, whether or not you guys are using like a change control process, or you're like, nope, go ahead and just make the change in prod and let us know that we're good. We don't really recommend that approach. We definitely recommend testing it first before it's ever implemented in a production environment. So it could be as simple as 24 hours, depending on what is flagged, all the way up to maybe possibly 3 to 4 weeks, or maybe a month or two, depending on which audit that we're running in your environment and what we find during that testing phase, to know what you guys are needing to address to make sure that your people can still do their job, but at the same time being secure in their environment.
Awesome. Okay, next question we got in here. How does XTIVIA's approach to CIS benchmark implementation assist with regulatory compliance and audit readiness?
So I could take that one. So the CIS benchmarks are pretty much designed with compliance in mind. So DSS, SOX, HIPAA, whatever your regulatory compliance requirements are, we can map the assessment results of the CIS benchmark tool to those requirements. So what that'll do is you'll get a complete report of all the vulnerabilities mapped to whatever the requirements are for the compliance, so that you'll have side-by-side documentation. So let's say you run an assessment, you find some vulnerabilities, you fix those vulnerabilities, and then you run another assessment as well. You'll have basically two documents completely detailing the process of what you've changed and what's been updated. So when it comes to audit time, you're able to provide those documents and have that peace of mind.
Cool, awesome. Next question. What are the key benefits of partnering with XTIVIA for CIS benchmark services beyond just running the reports?
okay, well, I'll answer that. Basically, managed services and consulting projects. We can set up scheduled scanning options, monthly, quarter, biannual. We also provide expert guidance for you as well, tailored solutions to the problems, proven methodologies that have worked in the past with other places can be provided to you so you can get on the same page with everything else. Improvements, continuous, always upgrading the process to bring the best out of everything. Reducing audit burdens, which are just, tough at times for everyone. And we also at XTIVIA, we emphasize the remediations of the findings and from the reports, and that can lead to more hours to do other things and also profit.
Cool. Looks like we just have one more question here. Does XTIVIA offer options for ongoing security and compliance, such as recurring scans or managed services?
Yeah, absolutely. So some customers have just been interested in doing a one-time scan, but really, I mean, you scan, you figure out what your settings are right now, and then 6 months from now, business happens, things change, requirements for your applications change. It's always best to then rescan it, at least on a regular basis, to say, not only are we compliant right now, but are we compliant, 6 months from now when we've made the modifications in our environment. So we definitely offer the service to go in. Every customer is kind of different. Some people are like, we don't make that many changes, so just scan my system every 6 months. That's all I need. I actually don't really report to a regulatory environment. I don't have to be audited, but I just want to know that I'm secure. But then we have other companies that are definitely like, look, I'm on the hook for the SOX, for the HIPAA. I want you to go ahead and make sure that I'm scanned and updated, and I want notifications if we ever fall out of compliance.
Yeah, that's the big thing, Kat, if I could follow up on that a little bit, is even if you're not under a scrutiny of auditing and things like that, I come from a school district where ransomware was rapid and schools were going down and all the time, all around us. And, that peace of mind of knowing that you're up to the standardization to be able to block as best you can to the highest degree was just, it helps you sleep at night. I always use the, is this going to keep me up type things for when it comes to security. So it's always good to have that in the back of your mind. We're doing everything possible to keep our company secure, keep our users safe, and, keeping everybody to be able to do their jobs.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that just about concludes our webinar today. To let everybody know, we will be sending out this recording and an ebook on CIS benchmarks next week. So keep an eye out for that. And please come back and join us for another XTIVIA webinar. Thank you so much to our data security experts here. And we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.